Again with the buttons. There's only 2 buttons and it's still confusing. Welcome to the Pagan Playground. The last question in this particular grouping of groupiness. I'm wondering if I should put on different shirts for each question to make it look like I'm doing it each week and not batch filming. So, this is week 24. How does spirituality relate to your mundane life? Now, as I sort of have more and more spins on the wheel of the year, as it were, I think those kind of worlds are merging a lot more, where as a solitary, I can kind of do what I want when I want, what feels right to me, where coming from the Christian background, it was always like week, Sunday, week, Sunday. So it was like you're only religious that one day, though technically you're supposed to be religious the next, whatever. But there was never sort of a plan, or it was just sort of, you kind of went to your religious job on Sunday, and except you paid them instead of they paid you, it's just. So, in coming to, paganism, and having that sort of one-on-one relationship with the elements, with the Lord and Lady, with nature in and of itself, where you can take your time and be able to sort of work with what you have and not sort of be on somebody else's plan, where I can sit on the deck and read a book and look at the oak tree and get yelled at by a squirrel. I was there first. And just sort of sit there and go, where, I had my editing computer in front of me, so I could connect as I'm doing mundane things, but be aware of the spiritual environment you're in. So, how else can I kind of go here? How does spirituality relate to your mundane life? Actually, if I say so, I think the question is backwards. How does spirituality relate to your mundane life? I think it should be asked, how does your mundane life relate to you spiritually? How can you bring in your mundane life into your spiritual world, thus making your mundane life more spiritual? Though I suppose it's circular regardless. And that's one thing that I really like about paganism too, where it's not block. You can find spiritualness and spirituality in mundane things, or what most people would consider mundane. I mean, now that it's spring going into summer, it's the warm, life, fun times of the year, you can look at a nice green lawn and, feel a connection to earth there, and the flowers and the trees, or fall time up here when the leaves change color. In some ways it is sort of a mundane thing where it's something you see every day. Or, if you're taking a drive, glance at the lake you're passing, there are ways to kind of connect things. Or, if you're taking a drive, that's why I had my my travel piece of yarn here on my voyage I didn't necessarily want to take but survived. Cast the spell to, in your spirituality, cast the spell to make your mundane trip safe. None of that made sense, I'm sure, but there's ways that you can kind of, make it like that. It shouldn't be like this. Mundane and spiritual should be like that. So, I think it should relate highly in one's mundane life. But how that works for other people, it's an individual thing. for me, those weavings are still being woven. And some cords might be cut and remade. It's an ever-growing process. So even now I don't have quite an answer. I'm still kind of like those examples I gave before, you sit outside and feel the wind and just doing that type of thing. That's kind of how I relate those two worlds together. Doing boring things in a spiritual environment. So, I really don't have much more to add other than just babbling on incoherently. So, that is my answer for week 24. How does spirituality relate to your mundane life, or vice versa? So, thank you for watching, and blessed be. In the next batch, hopefully I'll have a different outfit.